Hello and welcome to Ginger Prime. My name is Brian and we've got a brand new update to the game New World. This is actually set to release on August 31st, but every month, pretty much on point, they've been releasing a major update to the game. This one introduces a brand new weapon for those of you who like magic. The power of ice will be yours, and so it is the intention of this video to do a deep dive into the patch notes. So whether you're watching or you're just listening, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Now, if you happen to be a returning subscriber, welcome back, Soul Nation. Thanks for checking out this video. You are a beautiful, magnificent beast. And that's what you get for subscribing, by the way. Free compliments with videos. Now, before we dive in, I do intend to actually release a video about New World this week, focusing in on, I think, the top 5 things that they need to do to be successful with launching an MMORPG, especially in 2021, around such fierce competition with Final Fantasy XIV's Endwalker expansion, Guild Wars 2's getting an expansion, and so much more. Even ESO is getting an expansion. So a lot of veterans are getting big content drops happening this year. So how do you plan to launch a new MMO in 2021? I'm going to be bringing that here on the channel, hopefully this week. I was originally hoping to kind of collab with Sir Medieval. If you guys aren't following and subscribe to Sir Medieval, be sure to do so. I will tag him in the description of this video in case you have not followed him. You can go check out his content. So just note that maybe we'll get something like that going in the near future. But all that being said, this is a long, nice, meaty patch notes. Hopefully you enjoy the video. Hit that like button if you do. Otherwise, I will see you in the comments. All right, so for the spotlight, new weapon, the Ice Gauntlet. We've introduced a new magic gauntlet weapon that harnesses the elemental power of ice. The Ice Gauntlet's attack scales off of intelligence, and adventurers will be able to progress through 2 mastery trees, allowing the player to manipulate ice magic in different ways. The Ice Tempest weapon mastery tree will focus in on damage and aerial denial. The Ice Conjuror weapon mastery tree focuses on crowd control, protection, and deployable Ice Pylon that fights alongside the player, improving their power and efficiency. If you're talking about a pet class, I think that sounds fantastic. What is really interesting here is area denial. Here you see crowd control on the Ice Conjuror, but the Tempest is going to prevent, it is a bit of crowd control, but actually preventing an area from either being captured or being able to be stand on. One of the 2 ways. It sounds interesting, and honestly, more magic is something I've been calling for in this game for a long time. Anyway, the Ice Gauntlet also is getting a legendary quest. Around level 60, you can unlock the quest for the Ice Gauntlet Rimelash. Level 60 adventurers can speak to the Ranger Heatley at the Great Cleave, in the Great Cleave to begin this quest, and players will venture on a quest to find the mysterious artifact that holds the power of winter in the palm of one's hand. And the art is just looking better and better and better in this game. So if you guys have not been following its development cycle, this is looking really freaking amazing. All right, faction control points. To incentivize PvP action, I love reading that, and to make the influence of the race more interesting, the influence race, excuse me, like, we're all kind of humans, aren't we? More interesting, we've added the ability to fight over forts in a territory outside of wars. This is great. More content. Capturing points will be placed in all territory forts, and players can capture these points by having more members of their faction inside of the point, and then the other factions. Forts can have that have been captured will remain captured until a different faction either claims the fort themselves or wins a war for the territory. Players will need to be flagged for PvP to enter any claimed fort. Control points will be activated 60 minutes after a war or invasion is completed. The control point is deactivated once a war or invasion is declared. That's actually really cool to see. Controlling a fort provides a 5% increase to experience gain and 20% increase to influence within that territory for faction members. I don't know if those numbers will end up being final, but that seems very significant, especially when you just talk about the influence gain here. So control those forts. I think essentially if you were trying to, I guess, weaken a zone, it has an incentive outside of war to also focus a PvP thing. One of the things you only could really do, you could do PvP quests, but it looks like having this kind of PvP event being orchestrated could really help you incentivize that declaration of war as well. Now, each fort has a unique global buff that is provided to the controlling faction. First Light reduces the fast travel weight cost from 5 Azoth per 10 weight down to 1 Azoth per 10 weight for the controlling faction. So from 5 to 1 as a buff. Monarch Bluff that reduces the fast travel distance cost from 5 Azoth to 100 meters down to 1 Azoth per 100 meters for the controlling faction. The Windward increases the volume of items gained when gathering by 5% for the controlling faction. Everfall reduces trading taxes by 5% for the controlling faction. Brightwood reduces housing taxes by 5% for controlling faction. Cutlass Keys reduces base Azoth cost for fast travel by 50% for the controlling faction. Weaver's Fin increases coin, experience, and territory standing from the faction token rewards from faction mastery by 5% for the controlling faction. The Restless Shore increases coins, experience, and faction tokens rewarded from corrupted breaches by 5% for the controlling faction. Morningdale increases the coin and experience reward from expeditions by 5% for the controlling faction. Ebonscale's Reach reduces the refining taxes by 5% for the controlling faction, and Reekwater reduces the crafting taxes by 5% for the controlling faction. So this is by each of the zones. So these are the different names of the zones. That's what essentially their buff is for the controlling faction. It's an interesting system, to say the least. New expedition. Expeditions are essentially the dungeons. Lazarus Instrumentality. Legatus Flevitus. Guys, if you're new here, just know I struggle with reading, and why not create a YouTube channel where I do a lot of it? Hopefully it doesn't bother you. I do apologize. Enriquewater wants to see the local threat neutralized. Adventure into the Lazarus Instrumentality expedition and combat the behemoth Shardias. Players must venture into this secret site that they hold the key to the origins of the ancient guardians to vanquish this monstrous threat. For boss encounters, the Chilla, a creature utilizing both lethal weaponry and destructive magics. Her dual nature will test the worth of those who seek to learn the ancient secrets. And then Chartalus, the colossal ancient construct, stands watch over the Lazarus Well, granting eternal power and swift destruction to those who awaken him. There we go. But more than just one dungeon, we get a second dungeon. New expedition, Dynasty Shipyard. The Empress of Ebonscale is building a fleet of warships. The fleet and the Empress must be defeated for the safety of Eternum and the world. Dynasty Shipyard boss encounters. Isabel's pets, Joven and Oro, obediently await for Isabel's command and their next meal. Zaho Taregular, elegant, graceful, brimming with rage, the Empress of Exile commandeth the army loyal beyond death and wields immense corruption energies to exact her vengeance. So we're getting an achievement system. Achievements are a way of keeping track of rewarding various player actions. As players perform these actions enough times, the related achievement is completed automatically. With the April release, there are over 400 achievements in the game, with more to follow. Players can examine all the achievements at any time by clicking on the new achievements tab in the character screen. And while all achievements are listed, including the brand new players, some are temporarily hidden behind a hint. The UI has a summary of how far the player has come in completing different achievements and display listing all completed achievements. When any achievement is 75% complete, a player will receive a UI alert that the achievement is nearing completion. I love that. When an achievement reaches 100% completion, players will get a UI alert celebrating their completed achievement. Even better. Achievements are completed. Jeez, I don't even know how I got players out of that word. Are completed at the account level, but progress towards completion is tied to individual characters. As such, progress is not shared between characters, but each character can try and complete each achievement, but only one will actually. So whatever character you do it on, that's what you get. But it's weird, no shared progress if that's the case. But maybe there'll be a category for shared achievements, like if you're doing kill 1 million enemies or 10 million enemies or something like that. Now, once an achievement is completed, it is completed for all characters. Please note, many of these achievements have lower requirements and in this release, and they are intended for the game's launch, so it's to make it easier to complete them during the alpha test. So regarding general updates, added voice over lip sync to quest givers in the main story quest, the PvP faction missions. They've introduced a new style of PvP missions which require players to complete missions in contested areas where their faction opponents will be completing to accomplish their own objectives. PvP faction mission rewards are now tuned to more accurately reflect the risk level and the time investment required to complete each specific mission. Each faction now has their own mission types to better immerse players in their chosen faction. And regarding PvE missions, they are now multi-step across all territories except for Shattered Mountain, Great Cleave, and Eden Grove. And they are designed to give players a curated tour of the locations that fit their selected mission type. Territory control incentives. Now they've added a number of benefits for all members of a faction that control a territory, as well as some additional rewards for controlling the company. Any two settlements controlled by the same faction will have their settlement storages linked. That's actually really nice. Players can transfer items from a storage link to their current location for a coin fee. Makes sense. Added a resource card to each town that provides members of the controlling faction with a small amount of ore, hide, wood, fibers, food, and oil, as well as a small amount of refining agents such as a tannin and sandpaper. When a territory taxes are delinquent, all company and faction bonuses are disabled. And the existence of benefits for settlement control will apply there as well. And they are faction bonuses of 10% increased gathering volume in controlled territory. That's 50 points of luck in controlled territory. Company bonuses of 70% fast travel discount to a controlled territory, 30% reduced taxes in a controlled territory, and 20% reduced houses purchase cost in a controlled territory. Really are trying to lean in. Now, the problem that I could see here going is the fact that with they're really leaning heavy into the factions, then you're probably going to have like the faction to join if you're going to want all of these benefits. But maybe we'll talk about that in a future video. Regarding progression updates, new milestone rewards, we've added a new reward for leveling and updated the levels at which some of the current rewards unlock. The presentation of these milestone rewards have also been updated for clarity. Players can access milestone rewards from the View Leveling Rewards button in the attribute screen. They've added a Tier 2 and a Tier 3 Azov staffs that unlock through the main story quest at level 30 and 40 respectively, and at Tier 1 the staff can close corruption breaches up to level 25, Tier 2 up to level 35, Tier 3 up to level 65. Players now unlock different tiers of their camps at level 5, 15, 25, 40, and 55, and for tier 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 through specific quests in the world. Fourth consumable slot now unlocks at level 25 instead of 45, and a player's first house is now unlocked at level 15, and the second house at level 35, and a third house at level 55, and that's down from 20, 40, and 60 respectively. Now, loot and gear. I'm going to take a sip of my coffee. All right, removed named shields from the faction shop and replaced them with faction-specific shields. Faction Ice Gauntlets are now available from the faction shop, and they're going to continue to add more visual variety to their armor sets. They updated visuals of all weights of Tier 5 armor. High-level Corrupted, Lost, and Angry Earth enemies also have a chance to drop armors and themed styles. Elite Corrupted creatures and elite points of interest have updated armor styles to drop. Added named items and new expeditions. Each expedition has a variety of exclusive random drops, and each boss in the expedition has their own selection of special items that they drop. They increase the minimum gear score that can drop from creatures in a particular level, which should slightly increase the likelihood of players getting more desirable gear scores on their drops as they level and their character to fight tougher enemies. And they've added a unique set of Outpost Reach specific named armor and weapons that appear as rare drops from the Outpost Rush rewards chest. So they've also added a variety of new perks items to drop. They've added a variety of new perk items to drop tables to accommodate the additional of new perks. They've added updated and updated all perks that are now 150 different perks across all item types. They introduced how perks whose power scales dramatically off of an item's gear score, and old perks will continue to function except for when it has been deliberately removed, and removed perks are indicated as such. Now, they added 6 mastery ability perks per weapon, 1 perk for each of the ability in the mastery tree. These perks modify the base functionality of one of the weapon's abilities. All weapons, armor, and jewelry now have 8 possible perk types that can be applied. Bags and tools have 6 possible perk types that can be applied. Some perks now feature internal cooldowns, such as Infused Mana perk. Lightweight perk has been removed and it conflicted with the new armor weight mechanics introduced in the March release. The old Mana Infusion perk has been removed. Perk items now grant 1 bonus, and as the bonuses no longer has levels. And the exception here is the attribute items, of which will be updated in the future. Weapon and charms, and now have a chance to grant 1 to 2 perks when used. So regarding crafting and gathering, expeditions now include expedition exclusive resources In their drop tables, regular expedition mobs drop one resource type, while bosses drop different resource. These resources are used to craft replicas of the non-named expedition exclusive equipment, enabling crafters to create powerful items with guaranteed perk outcomes. However, the gear score on these items still rolls, so it's possible to get items that vary in power. These resources can be traded between players on the trading post. Jewel crafting recipes now require jewel crafting components, which enables the same gear score range to be crafted into trinkets that was previously only enjoyed by other crafting equipment. Components are things like chains for amulets, bands for rings, hooks for earrings, and components while crafting first and then combined with the gemstone to be crafted the trinket. They added a carnelian gem to ore veins that corresponding gem cutting recipes, so the stone cutting station carnelian gems aren't used in jewel crafting yet, but can be socketed into items for a bonus effect. In weapons, they turn on taunt, which puts players on top of the threat list to the enemy AI. To the select set of abilities: Reap, Final Stand, Shield Bash, Shockwave, Vault Kick, Riposte, and Berserk. In armor, they reduce the amount of threat a player applies. So putting this into weapons increases taunt. Putting in armor reduces taunt. And then essentially, saltpeter has replaced fire motes as an ingredient for gunpowder, and saltpeter can now be found in many caves throughout Eternum. Arrows and cartridges now stack up to 500, up from 250. So for combat, ranged attacks can now be fired through non-enemy players. Now ranged players only need to worry about hitting the enemy, not firing around their allies. Oh my gosh, that was such a pain point in the alpha. Excuse me, the public preview alpha, whatever they did back in the fall. Enemy AI ongoing. We've continued to tune and refine existing AI combat experience. This release, we've updated an additional set of enemy AI. New mechanic: large enemy staggers. Allows players to knock certain large characters into a long, highly punishable reaction by fully depleting their stamina. Enemies take stamina damage similar to how players trigger block breaks on shielded enemies, using charged up heavy attacks and hitting abilities to whittle down the character's stamina bar. So, attribute threshold bonuses. Attribute threshold bonuses are persistent bonuses to players for maintaining certain points values. In each attribute, bonuses are rewarded every 50 points, investing in a single attribute, e.g. at level 50, 100, and 100 points invested. Each threshold will have combat bonuses and non-combat bonuses. So, strength 50 gets 15% damage to melee weapon, light attacks, and 10% to mining speed. This is nice. I love that aspect right there. That's smart. 100, 20% damage to melee heavy attacks, and then you get 20 points of encumbrance. 150, 50% stamina damage from melee weapon, light and heavy attacks, with a 10% decrease in the weight of mined items. Man. 200, 20% damage on stunned, slowed, and rooted enemies, 10% mining speed. 250 stamina regeneration continues while performing light and heavy attacks with melee weapons, and 10% yield on increase when mining. And 300 light and heavy attacks with melee weapons gain a grit, 25% to fully mine an ore node in a single swing. Dexterity, okay, we've got 50, all the way through 300, 10% chance for critical hit, 10%, 10 plus skinning speed. Then 5% piercing damage, 20% haste for 3 seconds after skinning. Dodging costs 10 less stamina, 10% decrease in weight of skin items, 20% bonus to backstab and headshot damage, 10% skinning speed, 30% critical damage as stunned, and 10% yield increase when skinning. And ammo has 15% chance of being returned, guaranteed critical hit after a dodge roll. This is really fascinating. I'd love to know your thoughts on this. I find this interesting because also it seems to have a benefit in the gathering aspect. So if you're rolling a heavy melee build, mining might be the thing you want to also secondary in terms of gathering in the game. Just going to say it. Just going to put it out there. Intelligence. 10% damage to light and heavy magic attacks. 10% harvest speed. 20% increase to damage. 5% gain. And 1 is off when harvesting. Holy crap. 20% elemental damage. Minus 10% in weight and harvesting items. 10 plus mana after dodge. 10% harvesting speed. 30 damage to time rolls. 10% yield increase when harvesting. And then finally, 30% damage on first hit of full health target, 10% reduction in dissolved travel costs. Choices! I love choices. I know that people are going to probably min-max and meta the crap out of this and say this is the one way that you should play, but geez Louise, I love choices. 10% mana regeneration on focus, 10% fishing line tension, Yeah, okay, it's great that we have a stat for each gathering aspect. 20 points to mana pool, 10% yield when salvaging, 20% healing output, minus 10% decrease in fishing items, 20% duration and casted buffs, 10% fishing line tension, 30 mana on self or group kill, and 10% increase the caught fish size. When mana hits 0, gain 200% mana regen for 10 seconds with a 60-second cooldown, 10% cooldown reduction for in fast travel. And Constitution, you have all health consumables, 20% stronger, plus 10% logging speed. Then you've got increased max health by 10% of physical armor, 10% reduction to the durability loss for tools, 20% reduction in crit damage taken, 10% decrease in weight logging items, 20% increase in armor, 10% logging speed, 80% damage reduction when full health, 10% yield increase when logging, and 30% duration of stun, slow, rooted spells, 25% chance to drop down to a single swing. So regarding points, and it's not telling me how many we ultimately have here, at the end of the day, like it seems there'll be no value in 251 or the value very diminished. Like when you have these kind of tier steps, you're going to see that from a build perspective, like if you're at 149, like like you're not getting this, like this is outside of reach because it doesn't scale to that 149, at least from what we can tell in the patch notes. So just note, there's still from a build perspective, there's going to be some math that's going to be needed because yes, it helps you, but you want to get at least how many tiers of these things can you get out of the different stats, right? So anyway, just a thought. Hatchet light attacks added a 4th hit to light attack chain, decreased the light attack damage of the first 3 hatchet attacks by 5%. Then you have Desperate Refresh, passive ability, reduce the cooldown reduction of the CDR per hit from 20% to 5%. Previously, while at low health, players could reduce their cooldowns completely in 5 hits. Accumulated power increases the duration of status effects from 2 to 3 seconds and added functionality to have it be consumed on the next attack. This incentive will either get the 4th attack in the chain or transitioning to a heavy attack on the 3rd attack. Relentless Fury increases the duration of the status effect from 2 to 3 seconds, but added functionality to have it be consumed after 4 attacks, and this will incentivize players to transition into light attacks from heavy. Refreshing Throws, 10% CDR reduction to 5% CDR when hitting an enemy with an active debuff. Musket, standard attack damage increased by 15%, shooter stance attack damage increased by 5%, powder burn damage increased by 10%, power shock attack increased by 15%, stopping power attack damage increased by 10%, marksman CDR reduced from 35% to 25% for 3 successful hits on the same target while in shooter's stance. So just all around buffs for muskets. Fire Staff, Fireball, updated the skill that only the base hit will reduce cooldown, and then the CDR was reduced from 10% to 5%. For the bow, Closing In, this upgrade will now only apply to CDR after initial hit, not over the duration of the status effect. Warhammer Acceleration Upgrade, CDR against debuff targets reduced from 10% to 7%. Updated UI and the UX experience, looking pretty good. Secure player-to-player trading. Player-to-player trading allows players to initiate secure, synchronous trade of coin and up to 5 items at once to another player. To trade with another player, use the social actions menu through chat, or the social menu. Players can be within 2 meters of the other player in order to trade. There is a lock-in step and a confirmation step to countermeasure trade sniping. So that's actually really good. One of the common complaints of the game earlier on was that you would have to kind of run around. I did like the fact that you could kind of just run around and drop stuff. It kind of made things a little bit shady, a little black market, but it did cause people confusion because people are used to that secure direct player trading, and you could only then do that in the house or somewhere out in the world. So I think that's going to reduce some stress when it comes down to it. Inventory updates. Players can now lock their favorite items. That's good. I wish Outriders would do that soon. Which will add a little padlock icon to them, meaning that they can't be salvaged until they are unlocked. Now you can salvage your crafting batches in comfort and security. Players can now see their average gear score in the stat area at the bottom of the screen. Regarding UI and visual updates, updated quests to the map to improve the consolidated UI elements for players. They added the following sorting categories for quest objectives: closest, easiest, territory, and type of objective. The camera depth of field was made in an update of the foreground elements, like the character, when applied depth of field to blur the background. Now the outlines of the character on inventory and NPC conversation screens are crisp and sharp. Visual updates past the Expeditions UI is complete, including a celebration banner on defeating the final boss. Some elements, such as the map tooltips, are still incoming in future releases. UI updates for Outpost Rush are complete, and added visual updates to level milestone banners and the level rewards accessed through the attributes screen. And here we got some really cool looking screenshots for sure. So them putting the Ice Gauntlet into play and more. That is the patch notes, guys. I thank you. Hopefully you enjoyed listening, hanging out with me as we struggle through reading the patch notes. Again, I've got some New World videos that I've been working on. I'm very excited about the upcoming release of this game. Hopefully you are as well. If you made it to this point and you aren't excited about New World, I got to know why. But I appreciate you being here. Sound off in the comments. Leave any questions that you have, and we're going to wrap it up. For Ginger Prime, my name's Brian. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you have a fantastic day, and I hope to see you in my next video. But until then, take care. This video is sponsored by me, Ginger Prime. Hopefully you'll check out my podcast channel, Ginger Gaming Radio, which we have lots of guests, lots of great conversations, and even more highlights. Links are in the description below. Let me know what you think. Thanks.